Hi, welcome to the second day of the CCNA course. In this, we are going to learn about the OSI model. So, what is the OSI model? OSI model stands for Open System Interconnection. It is a model that was created by ISO, which stands for International Organization for Standardization. It is a reference model that is used in various communication systems to communicate using standard protocols. It consists of 7 layers. Each layer of the OSI model has its own protocols that are used to make communication more reliable, fast, and secure. These are the 7 layers of the OSI model: application layer, presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and finally the physical layer. Starting with the application layer. It is a layer where the software application like web browser, like Google Chrome and the Mozilla Firefox, and the email client reliant on to initiate communication. Protocols like HTTP, HTTPS, and SMTP are some of the protocols that enables communication. Without these protocols, web browser will not able to communicate or send the data from one system to another. So that's why in order to use the application layer protocol are used to make communication reliable. Now next is presentation layer. It is a layer that is responsible for encryption, compression, and the translation of the data. It is a layer that is responsible for translating incoming data into syntax that the application layer of the receiving device can understand. It is the layer that is also responsible for compressed data it receives from the application layer before delivering it to the layer 5. This helps to improve the speed and the efficiency of the communication by minimizing the amount of data that will be transferred. And next is the session layer. It is a layer that is responsible for opening and the closing of the communications between the two devices. The time between the opening and the closing is known as the session. The session layer ensures that the session stays open long enough to transfer all the data that is being executed. Next is the session layer. It is a layer that is responsible for opening and the closing of the communication between two devices. The time between opening and the closing is known as the session. The session layer also ensures that the session stays open long enough to transfer all the data being exchanged and then promptly closes the session in order to avoid wasting resources. The session layer also synchronizes data transfer with the checkpoints. For example, if a 100 megabyte file is being transferred, then the layer could set a checkpoint every 5 megabytes. If somehow there is a disconnection after 52 megabytes have been transferred, the session could be resumed from the last checkpoint, meaning only 50 megabytes of data need to be transferred. Without checkpoints, the entire transfer will have to start from the beginning. Next is the transport layer. It is a layer that is responsible for end-to-end communication between the two devices. It takes data from session layer and breaks into small chunks called segments before sending into layer 3. The transport layer on the receiving side is responsible for reassembling the segments into the data the session layer has consumed. Next is the transport layer. It is a layer that is responsible for end-to-end communication between the two devices. It takes data from session layer and breaks into small chunks called segments before sending into layer 3. The transport layer on the receiving side is responsible for reassembling the segments into data session layer can consume. It is also responsible for flow control and the error control. Next is the network layer. It is also known as the layer 3 device that is responsible for facilitating data transfer between two different networks if the two devices communicating are on the same network that is unnecessary. The network layer breaks the segment into smaller units called the packets on the sender side and the reassembling on the receiving side. It is also used to find the best path known as routing. It uses the router which is also known as the layer 3 devices for routing purposes. And next is the data link layer. It takes the packet from the network layer and further break into smaller pieces called frames. It is also responsible for flow and the error control. It is similar to a network layer, but the difference is it only works at the same network. And the last is the physical layer. It includes the physical equipment involved in the data transfer, such as the cable, hub, and the repeater. This is also a layer where the data gets converted into the bit string, which is the string of ones and the zero on the both side. So this is the some of the summary of the OSI model. So that's all for today. If you want to ask any question related to CCNA, you can comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe this video. Also follow my Instagram page because I post content related to CCNA that will help you as the guidance. So go follow. My page link is provided in the description. Thank you. See you in the next video.